The Golf A59, one of the most rare and important Volkswagens ever made. We have it on the FCP Euro Proving Grounds at Lime Rock Park, and we get to drive it.
Oh my gosh.
Here we are.
I can't believe it.
Where are we and what do we have?
Okay.
Like, what is this?
This is the Holy Grail. I feel like for both of us, it's 30 years of magazines. Right, so where do we begin? All-wheel drive, turbocharged, wide body, homologation special, but really for all of its rally, for all of its turbo, for all of the Recaro, for all of the prototypes, this was the car we had on our walls. I still remember the magazine to this day that I got back in 1993. The title on the front of the magazine said Super Golf. Yep.
And it was in the corner. And I was reading about this amazing A59 Volkswagen Golf 3 that Volkswagen had developed to go win the World Rally Championship, to take over where the Rally Golf failed because it wasn't the performance wasn't there, right?
As a Rally Golf owner, the Mark II, the 1989, 1990 supercharged all-wheel drive wide body, I feel slightly offended, but no, it's true.
This car was designed to be a world beater. Yep. And at the very end of the article, I remember reading, it was like, oh, well, you're never gonna see it because they canceled the project. And I never in a million years thought I would ever have a chance to see this car, physically touch it in person, have it be in America. I figured it'd have to be in a museum in Germany, but instead we're here at Lime Rock Park at a racetrack with this car. This is literally, you can't replace this.
No, and I mean, for as much as we modify our cars, as much as we do when you get behind the wheel, when you get to see under the hood, the development, the amount of time and expertise and money they put in, we could never match.
Yeah.
Ever. And I can't believe it. I remember the first time I ever saw this car. 200 cars in their warehouse, Volkswagen Classic in Wolfsburg. The custodians, the curators, the carers of this car, they opened up the big shutter doors and all of the other cars disappeared. It was just one shining car. And I just thought, is it real? Can I touch it? And we're literally driving it here at a racetrack.
So can I nerd out about some of the technical stuff on the car real quick?
Please.
All right, so built by a company called Schmidt Motorsport in Germany, who was the factory entrant for Audi in the DTM in 1990, won the championship. They built the Opel 97 STW car, won the championship. I did some boating up on history before I got here.
I like it.
They were basically a supplier to Volkswagen Audi for decades, or a good amount of time, and that's how they got the contract. So Golf 3 Synchro chassis, that basically nothing below about here down is anything related to the street car. Everything is totally different from what I've read anyway.
Well, we got some door handles, we got some side trim.
That is true, and this is...
And a side, the lights.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a Euro marker.
Yep. But otherwise mirrors.
It's got headlights.
Sure, but otherwise you're right. Like everything, and when we go under the hood, everything. You're right. The geometry, every single thing has been touched. I'd say the windshield wiper's probably the same.
Probably about the same.
But I don't know if you know, I've had a decent amount of seat time in this. Got to work on it a little bit. Would you like to take the keys?
I would be honored. I'm a little nervous,
now,
but
there's some arguments about whether it's 1 of 1 or 1 of 7 or 1 of 3, but we're just going to treat it like it is absolutely 1 of 1.
That sounds fair to me. All right, let's do it.
Let's see if it's going to start up, because it has not been driven in quite a while.
This is true.
It's a race car.
It is a race car. One more try. There we go. With the car finally started, I needed a moment to absorb the opportunity I held in my hands, both literally and figuratively. I had to pinch myself. After dreaming of the A59 for literally decades, lamenting what never was, and now actually being able to drive it is nothing short of mind-blowing. To say I was a little bit excited is an understatement. I mean, initial first impressions, definitely a Mark III. It still feels like a Volkswagen, which to me is crucial. You can feel it's definitely not a regular Mark III at all. Like, that also comes through. Kind of like a rally golf, like Mark II golf compared to a rally golf.
But I think one of the differences for me is that the differential and everything on the Rally Golf feels street. Whereas this, yeah, we're sitting here, it's got carpet, it's got door cards and everything, but it still feels kind of raucous.
It's a street car, yes, but it's also a little rowdy, and that's what makes it so fun. It's that raucous feeling that makes the A59 so special. It's a raw, visceral feeling that you usually get from driving a fully caged, hard-mounted, uncorked race car, but here we're getting that feeling with about 275 horsepower and with a fully appointed interior. The race car DNA comes through.
We're sitting here, we've got the fire extinguisher button, we're watching oil temperature, but we can switch this. Actually, this panel is literally a radio delete, and we can switch it to differential temperature, we can go to fuel temperature, transmission temperature, which is reading 29 right now. Is that good or bad? I have no idea. Tell us about the transmission, because this is crazy.
So 6-speed, one-off gearbox from what I understand in the car. I think it was going to be built by X-Track or some motorsport manufacturer, but it is an all-wheel drive setup, but it's an active all-wheel drive, which was completely separate, or different I should say, than the synchro setup, which was fully passive, like what they used in a rally golf.
Yeah.
Viscous coupling, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, for anybody sort of like familiar with a modern Volkswagen, this is basically like OG Haldex.
Yeah.
Active center differential. I was reading one of the articles from Chris Ayer, and I think he said from his research from SMS, it could basically send 25 to 100% of torque to the rear wheels. So full, proper, active all-wheel drive. So I've talked a little about the gearbox in the car. The engine, we haven't really talked about too much, is very unique.
It's wildly unique, and we got to shout out Christopher Ayer again. He has been a stupendous knowledge. We've both read his articles for years, and a lot of that information in English has come from him. But yeah, so the transmission we've done, the engine is a 2-liter aluminum block, aluminum head, pretty much bespoke to this car, but it did live on in other cars.
Although it didn't do anything in this car in motorsport, it did go on to power some LMP prototypes at Le Mans and actually won their class.
Which is crazy.
Which is because it's a rally engine. It's a fully clean sheet, completely unrelated to any other Volkswagen engine. Just absolutely sort of miraculous, just totally crazy.
And just to remind us that we are kind of in a one of one, and there was other ones built.
Yeah.
There was a roller built, there was one built that SMS kind of kept. It had the rear intake ducts, the super cool multi-piece rear wing.
Yeah.
But that didn't have this engine.
No.
This is the only one that has the engine, so that's what makes this one kind of the one of one.
Right. So the fact that we're driving it, the fact that I'm driving it, I can't emphasize enough how special this is and how much this means to a Volkswagen enthusiast.
I'm so glad.
The chassis and suspension is fully reworked and redesigned on the A59. It still feels like a Golf, and after looking underneath, this makes sense. We can see that the front mainly consists of modified and optimized OEM parts with revised geometry, and it's not quite the revolution of design found at the rear. The rear suspension of the A59 is advanced, especially compared to anything else offered from Volkswagen at the time. Multi-link and fully adjustable, it is actually fairly close to the now familiar design used on most modern Volkswagens. It feels so planted, and it's firm. It feels like a tarmac car, like a tarmac rally car. But you can tell everything works in terms of geometry so much better than a standard Mark III.
So the geometry is wildly different. The strut towers are raised a lot. I mean, they've literally just ditched the original strut tower design essentially. And you can actually see it's a 3-bolt system like the Mark V. So something that didn't appear on the road until 2005 made it on this car in 1992.
Which is crazy to think about. I mean, one of the things that I always think about is the fact they didn't make this car how different would Volkswagen look today in terms of the cars they make, the history that it would have if they had made this one car.
Yeah.
I've been hogging the driver's seat here. I'm gonna hand the keys over, let you get behind the wheel a little bit on the proving grounds here, like to actually experience it a bit more.
I will not argue.
Yeah, this car is proper quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's way faster than a Mark II Rally Golf.
Oh yeah.
It's way faster than a VR6 Synchro Mark III.
Oh yeah.
I would say it's way faster than a Mark IV 1ET, no question.
100%.
Mark IV R32, again, not a question. I mean, it's not comparable to a road car.
Yeah, I think you'd have to get into basically like maybe a Mark 6R as a relatable street car.
Yeah.
Boost comes in smoothly and faster than expected. You can't help but giggle as the A59 turbo chirps and surges when you change gears. It's the perfect rally car soundtrack. It's surprisingly balanced, and it's an absolute riot.
All right, as much as I am enjoying making whooshy noises and enjoying this car, I think it's time to go and just take a look under the hood. So let's get it back to FCP Euro.
Sounds good.
This is gonna be fun.
As our driving time with the A59 came to a close, and before we head back to FCP Euro to examine the car in the shop, it was time to reflect. Does it measure up? The answer? Absolutely. And that it's so good and has this much potential makes it even more tragic that the project was canceled. As expected, this pre-production prototype does reveal its age here and there. There are some chips, marks and scratches, road grime under the hood, and the headliner sags a bit in spots. You can feel the 20,000 kilometers of testing that the car has been put through by people like rally legend Walter Röhrl and at places like the Nürburgring. All of this just makes the experience just that much more special. The A59 actually has a lot in common with another very special Volkswagen Motorsport project that we also happen to have on hand. And that story's for another time. But that fact is that neither of these vehicles will have ever had the chance to win the titles or championships that they were built to win.